Representative Rodriguez, for what purpose?
Will the gentlelady yield for...
Will the gentlelady yield?
I yield.
The gentlelady yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Howard, your amendment's really simple. It's a 4-line amendment, and it just talks about encumbered funds. Can you just explain that in a sentence or two, what that means and why that's important?
Sure, and I think that's what I was trying to have the conversation with Chairman Bonin about. It is very simple, as you say. This excludes the counting of encumbered funds in the calculation of creating the tax cut for the franchise tax. Exclude the portion of the balance that was encumbered. If it's encumbered, that means that we have an obligation for those funds.
And what is that? So what is some of those obligations that we have?
Well, we were talking about the GR dedicated funds are one of them. Those are funds that we have collected for a certain purpose that we've been holding back in order to balance the budget. Those are funds that at some point we either need to be paying for their intended purpose or stop collecting it, pay it down somehow, but that's one. We have unfunded liabilities with our pensions. There's probably, I think the last thing I saw with the rating agencies, there's about 11 states that have had their ratings downgraded because of their pensions. We have been talking this session about the problem with the TRS care for our retired teachers.
What about
that particular account is going to go bankrupt if we do not put funds in there.
Yeah, I agree. What about public education? Tell me how this impacts our public schools, potentially.
Well, the way that we fund public education is we have a bucket that we have several different revenue streams that fill that bucket, one of which is the Property Tax Relief Fund, which is where a portion of the franchise tax goes. If that money is not going into that bucket, it has to be replaced by something else. And what we've been seeing of late with the property value increases is the increased dollars going into that bucket are property tax dollars. We're very concerned about the rising property taxes that Texans are having to pay, but the less state dollars that we put into that bucket,
then the more
property tax dollars go in there. If we truly want to reduce property taxes, then we have to find revenue other than the property taxes to fill that bucket.
So, we heard Chairman Bonin and then I think Chairman Murphy also back here talking about, well, the Texas economy is going to take care of this just because the economy is going to grow. We have we not, estimates from our controller at times, this controller and other controllers in the past that have said, this is our estimate based on a projection, and that projection just doesn't come to pass. And then we hit a budget shortfall, correct?
Absolutely. That's happened before since I've been here.
So, and that's not to say that we don't have a strong economy.
Absolutely.
It's not to say that the working men and women of Texas aren't doing what they need to be doing. It just means that the economy goes up and down sometimes.
We're very fortunate in Texas. We have a diversified economy. It's not like it was before when the oil and gas industry went down and we suffered much greater than we are now. Obviously, we've had a downturn in the oil and gas industry, but we're still growing. The comptroller says that about 2% a year. Not as fast as we were, but we are still growing. And so we can expect that we'll continue in that trajectory, but we can't eliminate a large portion of our revenue stream and expect that to cover what we need, especially when we have dedicated now, after the last constitutional amendment, the $5 billion of sales tax growth, which is our largest revenue stream, to be dedicated to transportation. A worthy cause, thank you, Mr. Phillips, a worthy cause, indeed.
And I supported that.
Yeah, most of us supported that eventually and voted for it at the ballot box. Right. I did. It was our only option. But it means that we've tied our hands, and we only have discretion over, I don't know, right now it's probably about 15% of the budget. Right. We continue to tie our hands, decrease revenue streams, dedicate what we have, and there's no way we can cover the growth in education and healthcare.
So if recent history is any indicator, when we do have a budget shortfall, like say we did have in 2011, did we raise any revenue to try to fill that shortfall, or did we cut dramatically very important programs, not to mention public education?
We cut $5.4 billion from public education.
Are we back to where we were before 2011 on public education?
No, we're not. Some districts are, in fact, doing better. I won't deny that. Sure. And I'm very glad that we have been putting more money into public education. But there are a large number of districts that still are receiving less per pupil today than they were in 2011. And the state's share has decreased to now it's something like, I think, projected 38%, with the local property taxpayers covering the rest of the cost of public education. If you look at it in constant dollars, we are spending less per pupil today than we were 10 years ago.
I think without this tax, would you agree that we're really limiting ourselves on how we're going to handle the state as the state grows, and it has been growing a lot, the needs of this state? If we get rid of this tax, we may not be tying the hands of future legislatures or whatever, or we might be, but we're definitely limiting our ability to address those needs in the future if we get rid of this.
We're limiting our ability to responsibly cover the costs of what most Texans expect government to provide in terms of quality public education, affordable and accessible higher education, the roads we need to drive on, the water that we need for our drinking and for our businesses, all of those things. We've got to have, we can't, they don't come about for free.
Yeah,
They cost something.
I mean, I think you would agree with me that there is such a thing as responsible tax cuts.
Absolutely.
I don't think this is one of those. Would you agree with me on that?
I would agree that it's not.
Thank you.
Thank you.